Cregan Stark, the Wolf of the North, was a pivotal figure in the Dance of the Dragons, the Targaryen Civil War, who fought for Rhaenyra Targaryen and served as hand of the king for her son, Aegon the Dragonbane, or Aegon III officially. Everything truly started when the Black armies marched on King's Landing in 131 AC. The closest army to King's Landing was the Tullys, led by Lord Kermit and Oscar Tully, as well as Benjamin Blackwood, who fought and was knighted beside the brothers after the decisive and victorious battle of the King's Road against Lord Boros Baratheon. When the lads reached the Gate of the Gods outside of King's Landing, they were confronted by Corlys Velaryon and their new prince, Aegon III. "The king is dead, long live the king," Corlys announced to all those who could hear. Then he yielded the city to the mercy of the lads' army. Cheers of joy were heard throughout the army as the word spread, and one by one the lords and knights in the host came forward and bent their knees to the Prince Aegon III. The young lords rode through the streets of the city, being praised by all those who could see them. Gold cloaks of the city watch lined the streets and lowered their spears as they rode by. Once they had reached the Red Keep and entered the throne room, Aegon the second of his name lay dead on a table, with his mother Alicent Hightower weeping beside him. What was left of Aegon's court congregated beneath the shadow of the Iron Throne. Lord Larys Strong the Clubfoot, Grand Maester Orwyle, Sir Perkin the Flea, and Sir Giles Belgrave, along with 3 other Kingsguard, as well as lesser lords and knights. The body of Aegon II was burned, and a euphoria came over the city as Prince Aegon III proclaimed peace, safe conduct, and full pardons were promised to the remaining loyalists of the Greens. Good fellowship reigned, for the best part of a fortnight. These days before the hour of the wolf were called the False Dawn. Lord Cregan Stark and his army of Northmen had finally arrived in King's Landing, his host twice the size of the Tullys. The city did not cheer so much for them. Immediately he took control of the city. Most of what King's Landing knew about Northmen they had heard from Sir Medric Manderley and his brother Sir Torrin, courtly men, well-spoken, handsomely clad, well-disciplined and godly. They scorned the Seven and worshipped trees. The people of King's Landing saw the Northmen differently, as more foreigners than countrymen. When Cregan Stark met with Lord Corlys and the lads in the council chambers, he had only one thing to say: "The North remembers." 2 years before this event, he had pledged to Prince Jacaerys Velaryon, the oldest son of Rhaenyra Targaryen, in what was called the Pact of Ice and Fire, where Jacaerys had agreed to wed his first daughter to Cregan's heir, Rickon Stark, and to have an alliance of the houses and armies during the war and afterwards. Stark had come to make good on his pledge, when Lord Corlys had told Cregan that Aegon was dead and the war was over. But the wolf and his men had come to finish it, to destroy all of Aegon II's supporters in Storm's End, Old Town, and finally Casterly Rock. Ben Blackwood had said to him, "Half your men will die, Lord Stark." Cregan replied, "They died the day we marched, boy." Once more Corlys had told him that all those in support of Aegon had died in battle, and all that was left was little boys and babes sucking at the breasts of their mothers. Aegon was an oathbreaker, a kinslayer, and a usurper, yet he was still king. When he did not heed your craven's counsel, you removed him as a craven would, dishonorably, with poison, and now you shall answer for it. Stark's soldiers then burst into the council chambers, arresting Lord Corlys, and sent him to the dungeons. Soon after, joined by Larys Strong, Grand Maester Orwyle, and any others Lord Stark had found to distrust. He then scolded the lads, saying how they were stupid for assuming the war is over just because of pardons that haven't been answered, and that they were celebrated when they arrived to King's Landing. After it all, the boys agreed and gave Stark full control of their army, and of King's Landing. The city was his, to do with as he wished, and without a single sword or arrow, the wolf took the capital, and every knee bowed. As armies marched and lords and ladies traveled to come before Stark, what Cregan did was sit in the Red Keep and investigate the death of Aegon II, at the same time as planning the rest of the war. Before Lord Stark arrived, Lord Corlys had sent out pardons and agreements to all the enemies of the Blacks. Lady Joanna Lannister of Casterly Rock offered to come to King's Landing to swear to the new king, also to have 2 of her daughters stay in the capital truly as hostages. Lord Boros Baratheon's widow, Lady Elenda, agreed to all terms, but as she was weak from giving birth to a child, she could not come to King's Landing herself, and in her place sent her lord father with the Princess Jaehaera Targaryen, the last child of Aegon II. Oldtown was the last to respond. Lord Lionel Hightower, a boy of 15, had at first responded with anger, ripping apart the parchment, but then, seduced by his father's widow, who was only 2 years his senior, into not fighting and giving in to the sea snake's demands. A dead father, cold in the ground, and a living woman, warm and willing in his arms, and chose love over honor, said Mushroom. The three widows, as they were called, had officially ended the war with their agreements to peace which Lord Cregan Stark had accepted, making the Dance of the Dragons officially over. The Maiden of the Vale had arrived in King's Landing, bringing Lady Rhaena Targaryen and her newly hatched dragon Morning, and her twin sister, Lady Baela. And finally, the last Black Army of the Vale had also arrived at King's Landing. The commanders Leo and Corbray and his brother arrived as well, and joined the new council, which included Lady Jane Eyre and the lads. More often than not, Cregan found himself at odds with them all, but on one point the council gave in to Stark's demands, to get justice for King Aegon II and his poisoning. Let it be your head, Stark. I want no part of this, but I will not have it said that Riverrun stood in the way of justice, Kermit Tully said. In the Seven Kingdoms no lord has the right to kill another, so Cregan Stark was made Hand of the King. He did not sit on the Iron Throne, but on a bench in shadow instead as he dealt out justice. Septon Eustace came before the wolf first, but was set free because of a lack of evidence against him. The Maester Orwyle had come next, but under torture he had confessed to giving the poison to Larys Strong the Clubfoot. He was sentenced to death. Sir Giles Belgrave, commander of the Kingsguard, was sentenced to death for either putting the poison in the wine himself, or through carelessness, letting it happen. No king of the Kingsguard should outlive his king when that king dies by violence, Cregan Stark said. Other lesser individuals were also charged guilty. The king's litter-bearers, the king's herald, the keeper of the royal wine cellars, and the serving man, and they were all sentenced to death. Then Sir Perkin the Flea was found guilty of raising a rebellion against Queen Rhaenyra in King's Landing. When Sir Perkin protested that he had been pardoned for those crimes, Lord Stark replied, "Not by me." The final individuals who came under the judgment of Lord Cregan Stark were the High Lords, Larys Strong the Clubfoot, Lord of Harrenhal, and Corlys Velaryon, the Sea Snake, Master of Driftmark and Lord of the Tides. Lord Corlys told it all true, and announced to all that could hear that he would do it all over again if he had to. Lord Larys had only really one thing to say to Cregan Stark. When has a wolf ever been moved by words? The Hand of the King then sentenced both of them to death. No one tried to defend Larys Strong, but many people came before the Hand and the boy prince himself, begging for mercy on Corlys, including Baela and Rhaena, the prince's half-sisters, and the prince listened. But since he was not an adult until 16, and was not yet anointed king of the Seven Kingdoms, Stark did not need to listen, but he did. All because of Lady Alysanne Blackwood, who had feelings for Stark, and he her. "For me, then," said Black Aly, "grant me this boon and I shall never ask another. Do this, and I will know you are as wise as you are strong, as kind as you are fierce." Cregan Stark agreed once Aly had accepted his hand in marriage. On the day of the executions, Prince Aegon and his court watched on, as in the old Stark ways, Cregan passed the sentence, but also was the one to swing the sword. The first condemned to die was Sir Perkin the Flea, and when Cregan stood over him with ice, he asked the man if he had any final words. Sir Perkin declared that he wished to take the Black, to join the Night's Watch, at the wall in the far north. Then, one after another, all but two shouted and pleaded to go to the wall and become a brother of the Night's Watch. Sir Giles Belgrave of the Kingsguard was one of the two who did not shout. "You were not wrong, Lord Stark. A knight of the Kingsguard should not outlive his king." Cregan Stark swung ice, and the knight died. The last man was Lord Larys Strong, former Master of Whispers. When Cregan asked him if he wanted to join the Night's Watch, Larys spoke. "No, my lord. I'll be going to a warmer hell, if it please you. But I do have one last request. When I am dead, hack off my clubfoot with that greatsword of yours. I have dragged it with me all my life. Let me be free of it in death, at least." Cregan granted him his wish, and Lord Larys Strong died. The end of the Hour of the Wolf had come. After just 5 days of investigation, and 1 day of being Hand of the King, Lord Cregan Stark gave up his position and left for the north. The snows are falling in the north, and my place is at Winterfell. I want to thank everybody for watching until the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. This was a new video by me, so let me know down below if you would like to see more of this. I'll see you around.